Communism now comes to Massachusetts. Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, this is one of the most important, and I hate to say this, darkest stories I have done in a very, very long time. It is a heartbreaking story. It is a tragic story, but it is a story that could have a good ending or a happy ending if the people of Massachusetts, and frankly, because this story, although it's local, it has now gone national. I'm sure many of you have heard about it. It is taking off like wildfire. People around the entire nation are absolutely shocked, stunned, and outraged at what is now clearly the rise of an all-powerful communist state here in Massachusetts. And if you think I'm being, exaggerating or melodramatic for dramatic effect, listen to the details. And you tell me whether we're not slowly becoming communist China or North Korea. So, look, we're gonna discuss this. I think we can do something for this couple and these children, but it's going to take a lot of work, a lot of activism, a lot of phone calls, and a lot of engagement. But most importantly, now is the time to ring the alarm bells. Because if we allow this to stand, I'm telling you, our state and our country will never be the same. So, a Massachusetts couple, it's a local story, but it's all over the country. Fitchburg, based in Fitchburg. For those of you that are listening nationally, we have listeners all over the country. It's about an hour northwest of Boston, I would say, give or take. So it's a small town, or, a small little community, outside of Boston. A Fitchburg couple, Isael Rivera, who goes by Izzy. So Izzy Rivera, 31 years old, and Ruth Encarnacion, she's 30 years old. They're a loving couple. They have 5 beautiful, healthy children. 5. 10 years old, 9 years old, 5 years old, 4 years old, and this is the key one, a 9-month-old baby boy. Now, I want to stress this immediately. You need to know this. This baby boy, like all the other children, is extremely healthy by DCF's own admission, by the admission of the pediatrician who treated the baby. This is a very healthy baby. The baby is well fed. The baby is well cared for. The baby is immensely loved by the parents. And yet, all 5 of these children have been kidnapped, literally seized and taken away from these parents because the father and the mother, Izzy and Ruth, refused to vaccinate their 9-year-old baby. And because they refused to vaccinate their 9-year-old baby, the pediatrician said he was a mandated reporter, and I'm going to give you specifics about him. This guy's a real piece of work. Contacted DCF. DCF then has now come in and seized the children. The parents now are facing prison time. This is how insane things have gotten. So let me tell you exactly what happened. Several months ago, Izzy and Ruth brought their 9-month-old baby boy in for a checkup, a wellness check. Now, the doctor, the pediatrician, said the baby is well fed, the baby's very well taken care of, there are no problems with this baby whatsoever. None. The baby's happy, the parents are happy, everybody's happy. The doctor then said, well, it's 9 months. You've got to get your round of vaccinations. You got to get all your shots in. Izzy and Ruth, who are religious, said, we don't want to give our baby boy vaccinations now. We want to wait, and we are going on religious grounds, exemptions on a religious exemption on religious grounds. The pediatrician said, no, listen, you don't understand. I'm not giving you a choice. Either you comply. It's what he told them right directly to both of them. And allow me to inject all these vaccines into your baby boy, regardless of your parental rights, regardless of the fact that you don't want this for your child. I know what's best for your child. The state knows what's best for your child. If you don't comply with this, I am forced to issue what's called a 51A, which is a mandated report that you are abusing and neglecting your child. Izzy and Ruth said, thanks, but no thanks. We are not, it's against our religious beliefs. We also don't think it's in the best interests of our child. We don't want to load them up with all these vaccinations. They then went back to their home in Fitchburg. This idiot of a pediatrician followed through on his threat. He contacted DCF in Leominster. Leominster Department of Children and Families, along with the police, listen now to this, went to their home, began to knock on their door, surrounded the family, waited there for over half an hour, then put an order on their door, slapped a piece of paper, an order, saying that they're coming back tomorrow. And if they don't hand over the baby to be given these vaccinations, they will be considered now abusive parents. The baby will be taken away from them, as well as their other children, and they will then be in the care of DCF. This is every parent's nightmare. The next day, the Fitchburg police, and by the way, to all of you in Fitchburg, the police officers who were involved in this, you're nothing more than a bunch of jackbooted thugs. I just want you to know that. I'm telling you to your face. You're a bunch of jackbooted thugs. Well, this time they came with even bigger numbers. You would think, I don't know, they were a drug cartel. I'm not kidding, drug kingpins. So, huge numbers of police, more members of DCF. This time they were not taking no for an answer. They began to pound on the door. They surrounded their entire home. The mother hid in the closet with her 5 kids, fearing for their lives. DCF now said they were considering this now a kidnapping. Familial kidnapping. How you can kidnap your own children, the mother and the father, is beyond me, but let that go. Ruth, Izzy, and their 5 kids found an advocate. They were now on the run. DCF wanted them. DCF now wanted their baby. They wanted their children. They were going to strip away their parental rights. So they fled to Whitney, Texas. When they landed in Whitney, Texas, DCF found out that they had gone to Texas. DCF then called up the Texas Child Protective Services, CPS, and said, we have a warrant out for Izzy and Ruth. This is, listen to this, they are abusing their children. This is now a matter of, quote unquote, kidnapping of a minor by a relative. They are now wanted for charges to be prosecuted, indicted, and imprisoned in Massachusetts. CPS found out in Texas where they were. The cops went in, literally guns blazing. They kicked down the door. They arrested Ruth and Izzy. They seized the 5 children. They sent the 5 children back to DCF along with Ruth and Izzy. Now, here is the rest of the story. After they got sent back to Massachusetts, The 5 children, now remember, they're all healthy. There's no abuse. In fact, quite the opposite. Nothing has been done to any of these kids with the exception that the mother and the father, they are the parents after all, do not want to give their 9-month-old baby a series of vaccination shots. That's it. Literally, that's it. DCF took the 5 children away from the parents. They then put Ruth Encarnacion, the mother, behind bars in jail for 30 days, where she was not able to see her 9-month-old baby for 30 days. The father, she's now been released on bail. After 30 days, she's been released on bail, $7,500 bail, but the children are no longer in her custody. She can see the baby, but only with supervised visits. Izzy has been stuck in jail. He's literally stuck in jail. DCF has kidnapped their 5 children. The parents now are facing a 1-year prison sentence for kidnapping. More next. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, so let me tell you the whole story and not, the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And then I definitely want to take phone calls on this. This goes to the heart of so many fundamental issues. Now, what I want to stress, first of all, is this is a national story. It's becoming almost a cause célèbre among conservatives, among pro-family groups, among constitutionalists, among libertarians, among MAGA, among Trump supporters. This is galvanizing people all over the entire country. To say that they are shocked and outraged, I'm telling you, is an understatement. Now, just so that you understand how, there's no other word, I'm sorry, how communistic, how totalitarian the Department of Children and Families has become in Massachusetts, and this is happening in other states as well, and the view that our children belong to the state and that parental rights can be crushed and stripped away literally at the, at the snap of your fingers. As long as a bureaucrat deems that you're an unfit parent or you should be jabbing your kid at 9 months old. Because that's literally what it comes down to. So you have, his name is Isael Rivera, but he goes by Izzy. So you have Izzy Rivera and Ruth Encarnacion. They have been together, common law, 15 years. They have 5 beautiful children. By all accounts, I want to stress this. The father is a loving, caring father. The mother is a loving, caring mother. The children are happy, well-fed, healthy. There is never a complaint about, abuse, neglect. There's no charges against any of them. I want to go on up until this. So they are model parents who made a decision several months ago on religious grounds, which, by the way, the Massachusetts Constitution allows. It's enshrined in the Massachusetts Constitution that you can opt out of a medical procedure or vaccinations if you believe it violates your religious conscience rights. So all they did was invoke their constitutional rights under Massachusetts law, under the Constitution of Massachusetts, saying, no, we have a beautiful 9-month-old boy, very healthy. Even the pediatrician kept saying, no, very healthy, well-fed, honest, happy baby. It's a happy baby. It's a beautiful, happy baby. But he said, it's time for your jabs. It's time for your vaccination shots. And they said, look, I'm sorry, we don't want to do it now. For religious grounds, maybe even common sense. I don't know. There's a lot of shots, a lot of vaccines. We're not sold on this. We don't want to do it now. So he then orders DCF to force them to hand over the child. They refuse to hand over the child. DCF literally now sics the Fitchburg police on this couple. They flee to Texas. Now, this is where everything goes. That's why it's gone insane now. They're in Texas. DCF, through the state government here, contacts Texas's Child Protective Services. They find out where Izzy and Ruth are with their 5 children. They storm their house, or where they were living. Forgive me. Where they were living, they storm. 15 to 20 police officers. Again, like they were drug kingpins, for God's sake. Okay? They don't even do this for MS-13. 15 to 20. They seized all 5 of their children, including the 9-month-old baby. Izzy is put in handcuffs. Their children see their father arrested like he's some kind of a criminal. The mother is arrested. The mother is crying, Ruth. The children are crying. They've been now traumatized. Now, they're sent back to Massachusetts. By the way, they were held in Texas for 30 days. 30 days they were held in Texas, rotting in a jail, unable to see any of their children, including the 9-month-old baby. Now, hold on to this, okay? Listen to this. Now they're sent back to Massachusetts. DCF is waiting for them. Their parental rights have been stripped. They have taken away Izzy and Ruth's parental rights. Not just the baby. All 5 of their children are now taken by protective services. Izzy was arraigned in court yesterday. He is being charged with familial kidnapping, taking a child across state lines. He's going to face a year in prison, a massive fine. His wife, same thing, kidnapping her children across state lines. A year in prison and a massive fine. And they may now lose custody of their children permanently. Permanently. And their crime, quote unquote, is they refused to vaccinate their healthy 9-month-old baby. Is this North Korea? 632 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 61726. He is the one, Joan Eastman, by the way. I want to give a big hat tip to her as well. She was the one who initially wrote the story that really broke this thing wide open. It was a Boston, believe it or not, it was a Boston broadside story written by Joan Eastman, and she did an incredible job laying all of this out, detail by detail. So, and now it's gone national. It's literally gone across the entire country, in some cases the world. They have a latest update. Go to bostonbroadside.com. You can read the absolute latest on what's happening to this Fitchburg family, to this couple. bostonbroadside.com, bostonbroadside.com. Now, Joan has been texting me off air, and she said, Jeff, great job, and you're doing, keep it up. But she said you did make a technical error, and I always want, if I make a mistake, I want to correct it right away. I don't want to give you any false or incorrect information. They're not facing 1 year in prison. They're each facing 5 years in prison. It's even worse than what I said. 1 count, 1 year in prison, 1 count for each child. Familial kidnapping, which to me is a horrific concept. How do you kidnap your own children? I'm not talking about a custody dispute and you take a child, and I'm talking about the mother and the father who are in a loving, relationship, who have 5 children, and they don't want to stay in Massachusetts, so they end up going to Texas. They have the right to travel? No. They have the right to go anywhere in a country? No. And suddenly the mother and the father have kidnapped their own children? What? So kidnapped from who? From the state. That's what DCF in Massachusetts is now claiming. That ultimately, this is why people are saying, well, Jeff, this is a local story. Yeah, it's also a national story with massive philosophical ramifications. That's why everybody's up in arms over this. The premise of the Massachusetts government now. You want to see how radical Maura Healey is? You want to see how radical DCF is? By the way, and the left is siding with DCF, not just here, across the entire country. This is one of these cases that is an absolute political cultural watershed. You want to talk about a hill to die on? This is the hill to die on. Why? Because they're saying that ultimately the state owns your children. They're like livestock. We own them. They're not your responsibility. You may be the custodians. Fine. But ultimately, they're not your children. They're the government's child. They're the state's child. And if you don't do exactly what we tell you to do, we're going to take your children away from you. And if you even dare to contest us or defy us, we're going to throw you behind bars for 5 freaking years. And by the way, bankrupt you in the process. There's going to be a mountain of fines on top of everything else. Now, parental rights are supreme. Never forget that. This is so wrong and so immoral on so many levels. The rights of the family, the rights of parents, the right of a mother and father to love and take care of their children supersedes that of the government. It's a God-given right. It's not given to you by the government. It's not given to you by Maura Healey. It's not given to you by this loser pediatrician, and I'm going to name him. And he needs to be named, and he needs to be shamed. What happened to medical freedom? My body, my choice. You have the right. Hey, look, my children are all vaccinated, okay? That was the choice that Grace and I made. This is not an issue about vaccination or not vaccination. I'm sorry, it isn't. The mother and the father decided that it was not in the best interest of their healthy, well cared for, well fed, loved baby to take all of these shots, these vaccinations at 9 months old. That's their right, man. By the way, the parents are homeschoolers. So if you say, but Jeff, oh my God, they're going to go to public school. They're homeschooling. They're homeschoolers. So what's the problem? What's the problem? If we let this stand, this is North Korea. This, in fact, if you really want to know the truth, this is communist China. That's what this is now. Is Massachusetts now going to become a communist state? And are other blue states, which are supporting this, are they going to become communist states too? Because if the government can seize your children, kidnap your children, they've kidnapped their children, and take them away from you because they think they know what's better for your child than you, a loving mother and a father? That's totalitarianism. That's the very definition of totalitarianism. So, I want to give you the absolute latest, and then I promise I'm going to go to the phone lines. So, as Joan Eastman just texted me, they are now facing 5 counts of kidnapping, each count up to 1 year in prison. So they're facing each up to 5 years in prison, and we're looking at tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars in fines, which they can't pay. They've already lost their home. They've lost it. Their family has now been torn apart. 4 children have been placed with the parents of Ruth temporarily, and the baby, the 9-month-old baby, is with the sister of Ruth. However, now they are under essentially the care and custody and protection of DCF. The parents now are going to lose their children. And if they're sentenced to prison, they'll never have custody over their children again. Over what? Over what? Because they're homeschoolers? Because they exercise their God-given rights and responsibilities and duties as parents to say, no, we think our baby shouldn't be getting all these vaccination shots. We're not now. Again, on religious grounds. Saying we want a religious exemption, which is enshrined in the Massachusetts Constitution. This is a fundamental assault and a fundamental violation of parental rights, of constitutional rights, of medical freedom. Honest to God, this is what we fought the American Revolution for, to stop. The state doesn't own us. The state doesn't own our children. Now, the only silver lining in all of this is that this is so outrageous. This is such big government overreach that it has led, I've never seen anything like this. It has led to national outrage. National outrage. People all over the country, groups all over the country, organizations all over the country, MAGA is marching on this issue. And we have a chance now, in Kuhner country in particular, because as you know, we're the tip of the spear. We can break DCF. We can break Maura Healey. But more importantly now, we can break the left. Izzy, Rivera, Ruth Encarnacion are innocent victims of a political persecution for the crime of protecting and defending their children. Where is Robert F. Kennedy Jr.? Make America Healthy Again, where he went on about the abuse of these vaccinations and how they're forcing them on children and people, even though they're sometimes, in some cases, not in the best interest of the child. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. now needs to step up to the plate. Pam Bondi now needs to step up to the plate. Arrests have to be made. Every person at DCF involved in this needs to lose their jobs. There needs to be a thorough investigation, and they should be arrested for kidnapping a child. The governor either needs to step in directly and end this travesty of justice, or she must be forced to resign. Izzy Rivera, Ruth Encarnacion should be released, all charges dropped, and their 5 children, including their 9-month-old baby, should be returned to them immediately. 6:48 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, many of you have been texting the Kuhner Man, emailing the Kuhner Man, messaging the Kuhner Man. Jeff, who the hell is this loser pediatrician who pushed this vaccine and basically, sick DCF on Izzy and Ruth, and, got the state to come in and take away their 5 children? Okay, the doctor in question, the pediatrician, is actually from Iran. He was trained in Iran. That's where he got his medical practice or his medical training. He works in Fitchburg. He is Dr. Behzad Goharfar. So Dr. Behzad, Behzad. His last name, G-O. There's no question. He threatened him. He told him, look, I'm telling you, you better let me jab up your 9-month-old baby. You don't let me jab up your 9-month-old baby. If I can't start pumping vaccination shots, he told him, I'm telling you, I'm going to slap a 51A, which is you report supposed child neglect and child abuse, and that triggers DCF and their intervention. He goes, so you better do it. And he said, I'm warning you. That's literally what he told him. He goes, I'm warning you. You better let me do it or else I'm going 51A on you. And DCF is going to be all over you and you're going to lose custody of your kids. And that's when they said, no, we want a different pediatrician, and they left. And then when the moment they left the office, this wannabe fascist, this thug, masquerading as a doctor, called up DCF, if you can believe it, and said, go get him. Go get him. And now they're each facing 5 years in prison. Izzy is sitting in a jail. Ruth just got released on bail. They haven't seen their children in months. If the mother does get to see the baby, it's supervised visits. They've lost custody of their children temporarily, and they may lose it permanently. So, my question to you. Number one, does the government have the right to seize your children, to take away your children, all of your children, because you refuse to vaccinate your baby? And you're homeschooling them on top of you. I said they're homeschoolers. Do they have the right to do that? Ultimately, who is the parent of the child in our society? The mother and the father? The parents? Or is it the government and the state? And the ultimate question, if you don't vaccinate your children, are you such a threat and such a menace to society and to your own children that the government has the right to take them away from you? Massachusetts says yes. Many blue states say yes. The Democratic Party says yes. I say it's totalitarian. This is communism. Agree, disagree. Tressa in Oregon. You're going to kick us off, Tressa. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Hey, thank you so much.
Hi,
it's
Tressa.
It's a pleasure to be on this call. Hello.
Yes, go ahead, Tressa. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I am directly connected to this particular situation. I had picked this. I had found out about this story on the Telegram channel and reached out to Izzy and supported him in just getting some information to him in regards to things that, options for how to deal with DCF based on a few other experiences that I had heard about primarily from some other people who had success stories. And so I just followed that lead and gave them a couple different options, and they chose to want to not contract with DCF at all. And did contact them after they got the notice on their door, and they told DCF that they are healthy. And at first they were only going after the one child, but as soon as they found out that this family was a family of 5, it was on. And DCF showed up at their door when Izzy was not home, and Ruth and the children hid in a closet, scared for their lives, as DCF and some police officers were swarming their apartment.
Tressa, my understanding is that was the Fitchburg police, right, who were banging on the door and encircling their apartment, right? So she was afraid of DCF and the Fitchburg cops, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's such an egregious act. It traumatized the family, the children. I mean, could you imagine being a 3-year-old girl, a 5-year-old boy, 8 and 10-year-old boy, and happening to hide in your closet in your own home to stay away from the police just because you don't want to vaccinate your children or, and you're homeschooling and you don't want to contract with DCF because they have this idea that if you don't follow their rules and do what they say, you're neglecting your children. It's totally egregious. This is a communist country if these things are allowed to happen, and we have to stand up.
Tressa, we will. I'm telling you, we will. Look, there is so much outrage now across the entire country, and there's going to be outrage now in Massachusetts because no other media outside of the Boston Broadside who broke the story. And again, that's why I commend Lonnie and the journalist, Joan Eastman, for doing it, because they're the ones who broke it, and now the entire national media is following it. But I'm breaking this story now here in Massachusetts, and I'm going to drive it. Oh, am I going to drive this thing, Tressa? Tressa, look, because you're obviously involved, you know the family, for the audience, they need to know this. Correct me if I'm wrong. Both Izzy Rivera and Ruth Encarnacion, okay, the parents of these 5 children, there's never been a complaint of neglect of the children or of harm to the children. There's never been any charges prior to this. There's never been any problems with police or law enforcement, never any charges against the father or the mother. Now, DCF is claiming out of the blue, because now they know they're in big trouble. They know they're in trouble. Now they're claiming that Izzy is an abusive husband and an abusive father. Even though Ruth says it's a pack of lies. He's a wonderful, loving husband and father. He's a religious man, and he's a wonderful, loving children. He's a wonderful, loving father who loves his children. And the children are saying, we love daddy. The wife Ruth is saying, I love my husband. They're smearing him in order to try to justify the fact that they're trying to put him in jail and take the children away from us. Am I wrong, Tressa?
In fact, I was urging them to not leave where they were, to not do any shopping, to not use any cards that had any bank cards or anything that had any connection to them, because they could track them through those transactions. I also and I told them, I said, don't contact your family because they could possibly be find a way to track you through your family as well. And they, they didn't really know any better. And I think that, just out of a place of feeling like, there were some things that they needed that, they went against what I had spoken about.
Oh, I know. They're naive. I don't mean this in an insulting way, Tressa, but look, they're good, decent, salt of the earth people who love their children, who love their God, who love their country, who want to homeschool their kids according to their values and their faith, which is their God-given constitutional rights, and they never thought that the government would do this to them or to their children. And they're, like many people, they're shocked at how authoritarian now much of American life has become. They're shocked. Tressa, I've got to ask you this because I got a full board and I want to take other calls, but just very quickly. How is Izzy doing? How is Ruth doing? From everything I've read, Izzy broke down. He cried. He can't believe what's being done to him. He's being persecuted. He can't believe they've arrested him in front of his children. They've taken his children away from him. Ruth apparently is devastated. She didn't see her children for over a month when they locked her up in Texas. Now she needs supervised visits. They are heartbroken. They are desperate. They are depressed. Do they have hope that they can eventually triumph over this? Do they have hope that the public will rally to them and that they could win in court and ultimately get their 5 children back?
Know that Izzy and Ruth are both incredible parents. They love their children very much. They are very good parents. Izzy is not abusive at all. In fact, when I cursed a little bit, when I was just telling them, please don't do these things, because you could very well have bring a wrath on you because of DCF. Izzy got upset because, he doesn't curse. They don't even spank their children. They do other disciplinary actions that are more positive and loving and positive reinforcement. They are such good parents. They have been.
So Tressa, hold on. They don't curse in front of their kids. They don't like it if others curse in front of their kids. They don't even spank their children. This is, oh my God. Tressa, look, final question to you. Are they hopeful? Do they think they'll ever see their children again? How are they holding up? Oh,
they're traumatized beyond measure. They're traumatized. Izzy is just devastated. Ruth is incredibly devastated. They can't see their children. They said their lives were their children. Their children were their lives. And now DCF and the Texas State Police and the Pittsburgh Police are all responsible for this. They are all responsible. And they all everybody that was involved in this needs to serve time. And the family needs to be reunited, and they need to be restored tenfold for what they have been gone through.
Tressa.
And I know that Izzy, when Izzy and I were talking, he said that he was really passionate about educating people about how to protect their families and their children as well.
No, I know this could happen to anybody. That's what's so chilling about this. Tressa, incredible call. Honestly, and you're a wonderful woman. And I want to thank you for your courage and your bravery and your compassion. Please, Tressa, you keep us posted on this, okay? And please give my best to Ruth and Izzy. And you tell them that Jeff Kuhner is going to do everything he can to A, get them out of jail, and B, to have them reunited with their children. Tressa, God bless you, and please don't be a stranger. Call again. 617-266-6868 is the number. Look, I'm going to be honest with you, okay? Like I'm in the confessional. And by the way, I went to the confessional yesterday for Easter. Okay, so I went to confession. That's funny, Mike. Mike, you're very, Mike, you're, he goes, must have been a long session. Sorry that you laughed or you cried. This is such a depressing situation. I'm thinking of holding a rally. I know we got one already scheduled for May 17th, but I'm thinking of holding a rally. It's getting to the point that things are getting so out of control with these Marxist, communist, socialist thugs that it's going to be a rally a week now? But I'm seriously thinking of the way we were able to rescue Justine Pelletier. This has, to me, eerie similarities, parallels to the Justine Pelletier case. And we rescued her. If it wasn't for us, she would have been dead. She would have been abducted, kidnapped by the state, by DCF, torn away from her parents permanently, and most likely dead. And I fear for those children. My God, what they must be going through, what they have done to this family, it is unconscionable. Unconscionable. We're going to do something, Kuhner Country, and we're going to help them out. Okay? We're going to do this. I don't know how yet, but we're going to do it. Larry in Leominster. Thanks for holding, Larry, and welcome.
Jeff, sir, I don't know why you're trashing on this organization. I mean, I think I got my last car loan from them. Oh, no, wait. You said DCF? I thought you meant DCU. Jeff, I always appreciate the latitude you give me, and I hope you can bear with me because there's going to be several points wrapped into this. Do you know what's happening on Saturday?
This Saturday?
Yes, sir.
No, sorry, Larry. I'm locked into Easter, so I'm thinking Good Friday, Easter
I appreciate
Sunday.
that. You kind of hinted at it. This Saturday in Lexington, strong chance that President Trump is going to be there.
Oh, yes.
For the 250th anniversary of the Battle of Lexington Green. I want to remind your callers and your audience that we fought for less 250 years ago. And we have less rights now than we did under the crown before we decided to break off and become independent.
Larry?
Yeah, I'm still here. I was, yeah. All right. So, when I called in,
by the way, no, I agree with you. I'm being brutally honest with you. I agree with you. And I think that quiet pause, that pregnant pause, really, I think, was extremely effective. Everybody should let that just sink in. You know, we're celebrating, this historic event coming up on Saturday at Lexington, that even President Trump may show up. Again, we're the cradle of the American Revolution. We're the cradle of American liberty. And in many ways, we have less rights now than they did. I mean, it blows your mind. That's why we have to win this. This is one of these watershed cases, watershed moments. And I'm telling you, and Tressa's right. People have to go this time, seriously, people have to go to jail. This is unacceptable. This is unacceptable. Heads have to roll. But Larry, please, I don't want to cut you off. You're on a roll. Keep going.
For you.
Larry?
Mike? Jeff?
Yeah, go ahead. You broke up on us. Go ahead, Larry.
Oh, sorry. Okay. How long has Mike worked for you?
Mike, how long have you been here with us, Mike? 3 years? Mike says it feels more like 10. All right, so 3 years? Yeah, 3 years?
It's like 50-50. I'll either have him screen me or Sandy. Both are great. But in all the time that Mike has screened me, I gave him a quick rundown on what happened to Justine Pelletier. I think that's the first time I ever left him speechless. He didn't know what to say.
Yeah, he's stunned. He has no idea what happened to Justine Pelletier. And I mean, he knows now, but he didn't know, before. And he was in shock. And I'm like, Mike, that's what these liberals are capable of doing. And I got to say this about Mike. Mike is very much into sports. He's a guy in his mid-20s, a very nice guy, a smart guy, but he wasn't really politically active or engaged. He has really been getting a political education the last couple of years. And he's just getting more and more shocked at how radical, extreme, and un-American the left has become. And you can see Mike is a different person now than he was 3 years ago. But again, sorry, Larry, keep going.
It's okay. So, to be fair, that was over 10 years ago, and he was a young teen. And young teens just aren't, and it's no fault of their own. They're just not into the politics like we are, so it's great he's getting this education. But back then he was probably just running around chasing, video games and stuff like that, which is fine. But this all ties into several points. So I think the reason why Texas, and I'm not making any excuses, I'm just telling it as it is. There's currently a media-driven panic in Texas because there's a measles outbreak there. So I'm almost certain they used that scare as a reason to haul them back here. Again, I'm not excusing anybody. And you mentioned it earlier, these kids are homeschooled. You can't have that in the liberals' eyes. Like you said, they believe they own the child, the state. It takes a village, and they can't allow it. So they're tying all that in together, and they're punishing these two and separating these children because they want to have, doctors want to have their bonuses for getting all the kids vaccinated on their schedule. They want to break up homeschooling because they cannot get away from the state. And, they're punishing. Can you imagine this, though, Jeff? They're, at the same time they're punishing these two, they're celebrating and protecting a child rapist. That was our conversation the other day you were talking about. They're protecting these child traffickers. But heaven forbid a healthy baby doesn't get his frickin' shot on time.
You nailed it, Larry. I mean, look, they will protect a child rapist, an illegal alien child rapist, or they're now calling for an MS-13 gang member, a criminal illegal alien, to be returned to the United States over lack of so-called due process. But they just took 5 children from 2 American citizens. Where was Izzy's due process? Where was Ruth's due process? They didn't have any due process. They literally took their children away from them because they refused to give them the jab and the vaccinations to their 9-month-old baby. I mean, this is what I'm trying to tell you. This is how sick and perverted these people are. 617-266-6868. Look, this is their Waterloo. This is now the left's Waterloo, and we've got to break them. 719 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. We do this every Wednesday. It's a new segment. The audience loves it. We love it. Truth or Troll. Take it away, Mike.
And now, America's favorite game show, where you get to decide on the Kuhner Report. This is Truth or Troll.
For today's entry of Truth or Troll, we have President Trump in an interview with Fox News talking about where to send our homegrown violent criminals.
The president is helping us with that, President Bukele. So I was very impressed with him, really very impressed. Great guy.
Could we use it for violent criminals, our own violent criminals?
I call them homegrown criminals.
Yes.
I mean, the
homegrowns.
The ones that grew up and something went wrong and they hit people over the head with a baseball bat. We have, and push people into subways just before the train gets there, like you see happening sometimes. We are looking into it and we want to do it. I would love to do that.
So what do you think, Jeff? Send them all to El Salvadorian prisons. Is he telling the truth, or is he just trolling to get a rise out of the CNN crowd?
Well, let me ask the audience, truth or troll? You think he's serious, or you think he's just trying to get the moonbats to keep going crazy? You can vote on our webpage. Truth Truth A, Troll B. You can vote on our webpage, WRKO.com/Kuhner, WRKO.com/Kuhner. You can also vote on X. We're very active on X, as again I was last night, over this whole issue regarding Izzy and Ruth and their 5 children. You can vote there as well. My handle at the Kuhner Report, Kuh, N as in National ER. And again, the website, WRKO.com/Kuhner, Kuh, N as in National ER. My vote, I actually think it's truth. I don't think he's trolling. I think if legally he can get away with it, if it passes constitutional muster, yeah, I think he'd love to send a lot of our murderers and rapists to El Salvador. And frankly, I think it would be a great idea, but that's another issue for another time. 617-266-6868. David in Brookline. Thanks for holding, David, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Thank you for taking my call. I'm a semi-retired pediatrician, and a couple of things to say. First of all, probably people know my voice, which is fine. I am pro-vaccine. I think they do much more good than harm. Having said that, however, this case does remind me of is it Pelletier?
Yeah, Pelletier, Justine Pelletier.
Yeah, it reminds me we went to the rally that you held years ago, and to do this to a family is beyond. I mean, it's beyond any Hippocratic oath. It's beyond anything that, for example, the American Academy of Pediatrics or anyone would recommend. I think what should have been done is to sit there. Yeah, I have several questions. One is it's a 9-month-old, and usually by 9 months, babies have had several visits for shots. So I don't know why the issue suddenly came up now. I don't know if the other children were immunized and they have second thoughts or whatever. But that makes no difference. This is not something that should go to DFCS. This family shouldn't be treated as criminals. I mean, this is horrible, but also it fits into a pattern that we see. Just look at the people, for example, from the prior Trump administration who wound up in prison, where they had their homes surrounded at 5 a.m. with CNN reporters recording this and dragging them out, or again, people who don't comply with a current ideology who are arrested in front of their families in airports. I think you know these cases. So as a pediatrician, I would have sat down with a family. There are practices, for example, who say, I'm sorry, we can't take care of your children because you're not getting them immunized, but we can refer you to a practice that's more, we would say, perhaps holistic, where, your children can get care. What I did through the years often is some families would say, well, I want to get the shots, but I don't want them all at once. Okay, well, let's work out a schedule that you're comfortable with. But I agree, what this pediatrician did was just authoritarian, and I wonder also, I guess...
He comes from a country and a culture and a society that's a theocratic regime in which parental rights are at the discretion of the regime. And individual rights are at the complete discretion of the regime. So I think it's fair game. I know it's politically incorrect, but I think it's very fair. And look, David, I'm not saying this to stroke your ego. I'm being very honest. I listened to you within the first minute of listening to you. You're very reasonable. You're obviously very capable. You're very competent. You have common sense. You have compassion. You're what a doctor should be. You're not looking to get, children taken away from their parents. You're not some psychopath. I'm sorry, but that's what this guy is. Who's looking to, power trip and abuse his power and lord it over people. And I mean, to call DCF and to mandate that the children be taken away from the parents? This guy's sick. David, thank you very much for that call. I really, really appreciate it. All right, I got to ask you, does DCF have the right to take away a couple's children if they refuse to vaccinate their 9-year-old child? 7:31, actually 7:32 now on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends. All right. This is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality siding, roofing, and windows. And honestly, Kuhner Country, it's one of the most important poll questions we've ever done. So I'd like as many of you to participate as possible, please. Does DCF have the right to take away the children from parents or a couple if they don't vaccinate their kids? That's really the issue now. Do parents have the right to vaccinate their kids? Thanks. Do they have the right? Does DCF have the right to take their children if parents refuse to vaccinate their children? That's what's happening, and it's not just happening in Massachusetts. A, yes. B, no. You know where I stand. I'm not just a no. I am a hell no, forgive me, a blank you no on this issue. But I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner. KUHN is in national ER. WRKO.com/Kuhner. KUHN is in national ER. You can also vote via X, and I'm very active on X. Please follow me if you can. My handle there, at the Kuhner Report, all one word, KUHN is in national ER. Okay, I want to read a brilliant column. I just want to read the first couple paragraphs. Like I said, this is getting national attention. People are really being mobilized by this, and they should be. And it is by Maureen Steele, American-Made Action. It's an absolutely brilliant piece. You can read it on wethepeople2.us. So we the people, and then the number 2.us or .us. And it's titled, the title alone says it all. Massachusetts has gone full commie. And if we don't stop it, every state will follow. And I want to read to you, it's a very well written piece. And I want to just read to you a couple of the opening sentences and paragraphs of this column. Here's the lead. They took a baby. They took his 4 siblings too. Then they took his mother and father away in handcuffs amidst their wailing cries. Not because he was abused, not because he was neglected, but because his mother and father refused a shot. And not just any shot, a pharmaceutical injection they have every legal and constitutional right to refuse. This happened in Massachusetts, once the cradle of liberty, now the epicenter of a recurring state-sanctioned nightmare. And if you think this can't or won't happen in your state, you're not paying attention. The parents, I'm just going to read just one more paragraph, and then you can read the whole column yourself. But it is so spot on and so well written, and honestly, it's prophetic. The parents, Ruth Encarnacion and Isael Izzy Rivera, were hunted down like fugitives, jailed, and forcibly separated from their 5 children including a 9-month-old baby who was breastfeeding at the time. Why? Because they said no to a pediatrician who, like a pharmaceutical soldier for the state, gave them an ultimatum. Inject the baby now, or I file a 51A report, i.e. you're abusing and neglecting your children, and I'm mandating that DCF step in and investigate and take custody of your child. Okay, that's what a 51A is. I'm telling you, we're becoming communist China. The more they infiltrate our country, the more they infiltrate our politicians, the more they infiltrate our businesses and our culture and academia, the left in this country is now looking at China as a model. And I'm telling you, that's exactly what they do in communist China and North Korea. But I'm using China now because they're the big influencer. At the whim, the state is all powerful. You belong to them and your children belong to them. And they can do to you and to your children whatever they want. That's not my America. Is that yours? Christopher in Birmingham. Thanks for holding, Christopher, and welcome.
Welcome. Thank you so very much, brother. I so appreciate you letting me come on. We've got to help this man get bail money. Right now, they're holding him on $250,000 bail. We're trying to get him $25,000. Everybody can go to Gifts and Go, reunite the Rivieras, okay? This is so important. Right now, we got to wake up or wake go. On Saturday will be the 32nd anniversary where they murdered 86 men, women, and children, okay? They do not like you. This is satanic. This is Luciferian. This is mass eugenics, okay? We have to help this family because they can do this to them. They can do it to any and all people, okay? The pediatrician on there a minute ago, I love him as a medical doctor. I used to be one of the biggest pushers of vaccines in the country until I realized from my children to do what the Lord commands us all to do, and that is test and prove all things. Not some things, but all things. When you do this, He'll show you the truth. The truth shall make you free. Okay, go to 2010. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled that all, I repeat, all vaccines are unavoidably unsafe. Wyatt versus Bristovic. Go look this up. Do your research. Your vaccines have MRC-5, the little baby boy that they murdered to grow out your vaccines. This is in the vaccines. WI-38, the little baby girl that they murdered, is in your vaccines. We now have confirmed 11 known snake venom peptides are in the vaccines, okay? Right now, the sky is falling in Texas where I am right now because why? There's 700 children that have measles. That's an outbreak. No, it's not. They want to give you this new mRNA technology that I believe is a death shot, brother. Please.
Oh, I agree. No, Christopher, I mean, you're making a lot of points, but this mRNA technology is deadly. It's what they loaded up that jab with, the COVID jab, and I didn't take it. My family didn't take it. There's no way in hell I'm going to have my children take it. Christopher, please, I love Southern accents. My audience can attest to this. I love your accent. I love that Alabama accent or that Southern accent. But you were talking a little bit fast, and along with that Southern twang, I kind of missed it. Where can people go if they want to help Izzy and Ruth? Could you repeat that again? And Christopher, if you go just a little slower, please.
I'm sorry, brother. I didn't know how much time you're going to give me, so I have to calm down and be slow now.
That's okay.
Okay, 1,000 to be able to get Izzy out so we can give him proper instruction on how to properly proceed with this satanic Luciferian kidnapping that they're doing with him, his wife, and his 5 children, brother.
Amen. Christopher, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Okay, we got her on the line. I'm so happy. The author of that brilliant column that I just read to you a couple of minutes ago, Maureen Steele. We've got her on. Maureen, thank you for calling into the Kuhner Report. And I've got to ask you, congratulations on a wonderful column. Really well written, well argued, in fact, brilliantly argued. Maureen, I've got to ask you, what can people do to help the Riveras? What can they do to help Izzy? What can they do to help Ruth? What can they do to help the 5 children, and especially that poor 9-month-old baby?
Well, thanks for having me on, Jeff. One of the things I think people need to do is we need a show of force. So I think at this point, all people can do is show up, and support the Riveras wherever they are. And I know that there are affidavits and notices that on the site actually that you previously mentioned against this sort of agency and judicial overreach that people can sign, and then they get immediately sent to the appropriate a person. So I know those are on the We the People 2.us website. But the reason I'm calling in is I'm also the co-founder of an organization called American Made Action. It is a 501c4, and underneath that is DOJA, the Department of Government Accountability. It's a citizen-led organization to bring back accountability. We're going to be announcing that on the front steps of the Department of Justice in D.C. The first week of May, with my co-founder, Ann Vandersteel. But underneath DOJA, the Department of Government Accountability, is a huge network.
Maureen, can you do me a favor? I'm up against a hard break. Can you hang on? I want to hold you over. This is extremely important. I think this is going to lead now to a massive backlash against this all-powerful state, against DCF, and against the left and the Democrats in general. 750 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, we're going right back to Maureen Steele. She has an absolute dynamite column on this very issue. Massachusetts has gone full commie, and if we don't stop it, every state will follow. You can read it on We the People 2.us. So We the People 2.us. Maureen, do we still have you, Maureen?
You do. I'm here.
Okay, Maureen, again, really excellent job with the column. She's with American Made Action. Maureen, I want to just get your thoughts on a couple things. I just want to read from your excellent column and just sort of have you elaborate on it. You really go after the magistrate, the judge in this case, Brendan Moran of Worcester County. And here is what you wrote about him. You said there was that one decision by this pediatrician to file a 51A report, as it's called. A threat, as you wrote, disguised as medical advice, unleashed the entire corrupt machinery of state force. With the help of a coward in a robe, Magistrate Brendan Moran of Worcester County, DCF was handed sweeping custody of all 5 children without a hearing, without notice, without service. All of this is a violation of due process, parental rights, and human decency. And then I think you really hit the nail on the head. But let's call it what it really is. Judicially sanctioned state kidnapping. It's happening all over this country, but Massachusetts has gone full commie. The state believes it owns your children. They believe parental rights are conditional, and worst of all, the judiciary enables it. Maureen, and as you point out, forgive me, in your column, this judge didn't look at any evidence whatsoever. He just rubber stamped it. DCF puts a piece of paper in front of him and says, we want custody of these 5 kids. And like some Soviet apparatchik, okay, like some Chinese communist apparatchik, okay, go get them. What can we do to hold the likes of Judge Moran, Brendan Moran, accountable? And what can we start to do to overturn this growing precedent of state-sanctioned kidnapping of children? What can we, the citizens, do, Maureen?
Well, the citizens need to support the groups that are going to start taking some very big action. And what I mean by that is they need to, if they can donate to these cases, that's wonderful. But to show up at court, to show up at, that doctor's house. I suggested that people should be out picketing out in front of that doctor's house, and at the state house. We have to make a stand, especially in the moments that count. The next hearing the Riveras have. Judge Moran is a criminal in a black robe, as are thousands of other judges just like them, him sitting on benches. What they're doing is unlawful and it's illegal. I mean, even in their own dirty little sandbox, playing by their own rules, what they're doing is illegal and it's unlawful. So I was starting to say earlier, one of the big things we need to do is we've got to cut the head off the snake. Chevron deference that was, overturned in July of 2024. These agencies have no more power, and these judges were told they can no longer do any rubber stamping. They're supposed to interpret the law. They're not doing that. They're in cahoots with these corrupt agencies as well. And I think DOJ has done such a good job at really showing the American people how corrupt these agencies are, funneling money through NGOs, and CPS is no different. American Made Action is here our goal is to shut down CPS and to, abolish the lower court systems, all of these administrative courts. The Solicitor General came out February 20th saying that they're unconstitutional. They absolutely are, and they shouldn't be standing anymore, and they ruin families like we see with the Riveras. Under DOJA, and this is an announcement I'd like to make because the Riveras are going to be the tip of the spear here. We have the United Law Coalition. It's comprised of over 1,000 lawyers. We haven't announced this yet publicly. I'm doing it on this show today, but we will be doing it on the steps of the DOJ in D.C. First week of May. We are the United Law Coalition, comprised of over 1,000 lawyers across the country. We've had judges even come out of retirement that are constitutional, that can't bear to see what's going on in the judicial and in our country, to help direct the strategy here. But this is going to be our spearhead case. They're going to be taking this on. Not only will they be going after the judges, they'll be going after CPS, the workers at CPS that help perpetrate this, the police, Fitchburg, the courts in Fitchburg, whoever has participated in this absolute travesty of justice and the trauma that was caused to this family. The police in Texas, we're going after them. They're going after everyone who warred against the Constitution and these people's rights. So this case has already garnered national attention, but this is going to get even more attention now because we will be taking this case on as there are really one of our first real pushback. And this coalition, in modern memory, there's nothing like what the American people are about to do. We are organized and we are ready to push back in a very big way.
Oh, Maureen, I've been waiting for this all my life. I'm telling you, look, you have my full 1,000% unadulterated support. Maureen, let me ask you one final question. The pediatrician, okay, the one who was trained in Iran, the pediatrician who threatened the Riveras, who threatened Izzy and Ruth to their face and said, either you jab up your 9-month-old baby or I'm telling you, I'm going to drop a 51A. I'm going to go to DCF and they're going to take your children away from you. And again, let me repeat his name. Dr. Behzad, Behzad. His last name is Goharfar. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. Goharfar. He's a pediatrician in Fitchburg. Maureen, should this scumbag, and I'm sorry, that's the only way to describe him, should this jackbooted thug, this medical thug, should he lose his license for doing what he did, for sicking DCF on this family because they refused, as you put it, within their full legal constitutional rights, because they refused to vaccinate their 9-month-old baby? Should this guy lose his license and never practice medicine in this country again?
Well, I personally think so, but I also know, Jeff, that there's some cases that are going to be coming, and there's other groups that we have aligned with. There's going to be a lot of doctors losing their license to practice medicine, for injecting people with poisons. The medical evidence is coming out that is just so solid that none of us ever should have gotten vaccines. These vaccines, are what causes cancer. They've done so many studies on Amish communities that don't vaccinate their kids. There isn't one single case of autism. So these, the cure, the quote unquote cure has been worse than the diseases in many instances. And so, there's going to be some major shakeups over the next couple of years. 2025 is the year that all the truth is coming out, but this is the year truly that the tide is really turning. There's such hope out there, and I want people to understand that. We have the Constitution on our side, but right now we have an army of, some brilliant legal and lawful minds, and they're about to unleash a world of hurt on all of these agencies and quote unquote federal officials and even police officers who just war against the American people. We're not going to stand it anymore, and there's about to be a true avalanche coming down on their heads.
God bless you.
We're living in exciting times right now, Jeff.
Maureen, if I'm getting too personal, please tell me. Do you write a weekly column? Are you a regular writer, or was this just a one-off that you did?
No. In fact, this article was published in Clash Daily and Biz Review. I get published in The Blaze, American Greatness, American Thinker. CPS is one of my one of the bees in my bonnet. Unfortunately, they're in my crosshairs.
So you do write then. So you write what, every week? You're a regular writer then, correct? On top of everything else.
Regular writer. Yes. You
write very well. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm telling you, as a former editor at the Washington Times, and I don't want to puff myself up, but I'm just telling you, as someone who's been editing and writing for decades myself, you are a very talented writer. That is a really, really well done piece. Maureen, I'd like to have you come on the show more often. Can you do me a favor? Please don't hang up. I want you to hang on. Mike, if you could do me a favor, could you get Maureen's contact info? And I'll just put it in my phone afterwards, and I'm going to reach out to Maureen, and I want to have her back on our show on a more regular basis. Maureen, keep up the outstanding work, and we're definitely going to have you back on the Kuhner Report again.
I would love that, Jeff. Thanks for having me on.
No, thank you for your courage, your bravery, your patriotism, and really, honestly, this is one hell of a column. I'm telling you, this is Ann Coulter-esque. Ann Coulter is I'm talking about as a writer. She's a very good writer. This is as well written as anything Ann Coulter could have done. You got some talent, Maureen. Trust me. 617-266-6868. Dave in Dunstable. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Oh,
hi, Dave.
Hi, Jeff. Jeff, this is really unbelievable. These people have way too much power, and they've really let it go to their head. Ever since the pandemic, they've lost total control, including these doctors. That pediatrician, he ought to be introduced to a Louisville Slugger. That's my opinion. And I guarantee you, he's my body, my choice when it comes to abortion. And what's next, Jeff? Are they going to be deciding if you? I just really can't believe it.
Well, Dave, that's why we got to stop it, and I think that's why I'm so happy that Maureen. We got again. God works in funny ways, Dave. We're going to partner now with Maureen. I'm telling you, there's an army now out there. I can't tell you, millions and millions and millions. This has really awakened people. So that's what I said. I go, this is a watershed. I knew it the moment I saw this story, and I saw the backlash, and I saw how big it was across the country. I said, oh, they stepped in at this time. Oh, did they step in at this time? No, look, Dave, and you're completely right. Think about this. Just stand back objectively. Okay? Just objectively. These are the same liberals and Democrats who tell us you can have a 9-month abortion. An abortion in the third trimester, in the 8th month, the 9th month, even here in Massachusetts, post-birth abortion. So these are the same people, listen to this, who say, oh no, you can, even after the baby is born, you can kill the baby. Okay? Same ones who are now calling for these children to be taken away from these two parents. Or even a better example. Massachusetts, like all these other blue states, okay, Minnesota, California, you can run down the line. You want to mutilate your child in the name of transgenderism? You want to cut off their breasts? You want to cut off their genitals? You want to give them these crazy hormone injections, which sterilize them, by the way? They're sterilized for the rest of their life. Many of them will never be able to, forgive me, enjoy sexual intercourse. I mean, the effects of this are devastating on children. So they will literally mutilate the bodies of 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds. And that's okay in the name of transgenderism. But if you don't vaccinate a 9-month-old baby, and look, honestly, I think where I kind of slightly disagree with Maureen, and I say this very respectfully, I'm not that much against vaccinations. I mean, I'm just not. I mean, I was vaccinated. My 2 kids were vaccinated. Now, I know they've changed. There's more shots they give, and there's more vaccines, and some of them are mRNA. And so I understand that when my kids were vaccinated, 12, 15 years ago, it's changed now what they're giving children. So I understand that. So I'm open-minded. But honestly, I'm vaccinated. My wife's vaccinated. My kids are vaccinated. To me, the issue is parental rights. Period. Full stop. Now, yes, if they're abusing the baby, if there's real neglect, if there's real abuse, if there's real harm, if the baby, God forbid, is being beaten or malnourished or is starving or what, that's something else. Okay, of course. You're trying to save a baby's life. But by the pediatrician's own notes, nobody denies this. Even DCF, nobody denies this. Is the baby healthy? No question. Is the baby properly and well fed? No question. Is the baby well taken? In other words, there's no marks on the baby. There's no abuse. In fact, it's the opposite. The baby is it's a happy, loving baby. It's a happy, loving family. I'm sorry. It's parental rights and medical freedom. You don't want to vaccinate your child, and your homeschoolers on top of it all. So it's not even like your children aren't going to force them on the public school system. It's none of the government's business. And my God, it's not just none of the government's business, but how can you rip a baby out of a mother's arm, out of her arms, and take all 5 of their children away from them? And then hunt them down like they're criminals and fugitives. They didn't want to hunt down MS-13. I swear to God. They want to bring them back from El Salvador. But you're going to hunt down these 2 parents who've done nothing? No, there's no criminal record. There's no allegation of abuse or nothing. They're good, decent, salt-of-the-earth parents who just told a pediatrician, no, I'm sorry. I respect you, doctor. We just don't want to vaccinate our 9-month-old baby. And from this, you're in handcuffs, you're in jail, you're arrested in front of your children, 15, 20 police come breaking down your door, you have an army of DCF bureaucrats who seize your children away from you and take custody away from your own kids. They kidnap these children. It's a state-sanctioned kidnapping. And what's amazing, honestly, Dave, this is to me, it's... Instead of Maura Healey saying, ooh, geez, ooh, okay, we kind of screwed up here. No, they're defending DCF. The Boston Globe is defending DCF. The media in the state is defending DCF. The liberal media, the Democrats across the country are defending this practice. And this is what I'm trying to tell everybody. Why? Because now they're making their move. This is their move. You don't own your body. We do. You don't take responsibility, and the children don't belong to you. The children belong to the state. And once you control the family, you control society. That's what the communists, that's what Lenin understood, that's what Mao understood, that's what Stalin understood, that's what Hitler understood, that's what Mussolini understood. You want an all-powerful state, you must destroy the family and you must destroy parental authority and parental rights. So, and that's exactly what they're doing now. So if we don't stand up now, I'm telling you, she's right. Other states are going to follow. And then we've unleashed a Frankenstein's monster. And I'm telling you, here, Colorado, look it up. Please, Dave, don't take my word for it. Colorado Democrats just passed a law in the state house. It's going to be approved in the state senate. And their moonbat governor, who's just as crazy as our moonbat governor, okay, says they're going to sign it. Here it is. Listen to this. You have a child, boy, girl, it doesn't matter. If you misgender your child, remember, this is your child. So here, my 12-year-old, okay, my Ava, just if I lived in Colorado and they passed this law and they're going to pass it, she says, no, Daddy, I'm a boy. You have to call me a he or a him. You can't call me a she or a her anymore. No, Daddy, I'm not a girl. I'm a boy now. I identify as a boy. And I say, I'm sorry, sweetheart. God made you a girl. You got the DNA of a girl. You've got the chromosomes of a girl, of a female. You've got the plumbing of a female. Your biological sex. You are a girl. You're a female. I am abusing my child. This is abuse. Like they're abusing, the Riveras are abusing their child for not giving them a vaccination. If there's a custody dispute between my wife and I, the state will seize my child. The state will now seize your child if you happen to misgender them or insist on using a different pronoun that they identify with. They're going to take our children from us if we oppose the trans agenda? They're going to take our children from us? If Jason says he's Jenny and you say, no, Jason, you're not Jenny, you're Jason? And the state hears about it and they're, whatever it's called, CPS or whatever. We have DCF here, but whatever. Children Protective Services will come in, backed by a moonbat judge, and you've just lost custody of your child. What did you do? Literally, what did you do? You love your child, you raise your child, you take good care of your child, and suddenly because you're not a crazy radical leftist, and you want to acknowledge biological reality, they're going to take your children away from you? So what I'm saying is, this is not just Massachusetts. This is a multi-front attack on the family and on parental authority and parental rights. This is our line in the sand. This is it. As I said in my opening monologue, this is the hill you die on, politically, culturally. You can't lose this hill. You lose this hill, we lose our country, our children, our family, our rights, our Constitution. We lose it all. We lose it all. Now is the time to stand up and fight. I think anyone in DCF involved in this case should be fired. I think the police officers involved should be fired. I think that Judge Brendan Moran, who signed off on DCF going after this family and taking their children away from them, he needs to be disrobed. He's a criminal in a black robe. She's completely right. He's got to be taken off the bench. And I'm sorry, but the buck stops with Maura Healey. And she's empowering DCF. She's emboldening DCF. She's giving them the green light. If she continues to support DCF, then she's got to go as well. And this doctor, this pediatrician in Fitchburg, this thug, this fascist masquerading as a pediatrician, you are a sick human being. If you threaten a couple, you threaten two parents. saying, I'm going to take your child and all your children away from you if you don't take the vaccines? And they're like, why would you do that? Like, why, doctor? Why would you do that? It's on religious grounds. We have constitutional rights in this country. In the Massachusetts Constitution, religious exemptions are enshrined. So we have a right to refuse any medical procedure, never mind vaccines, for our children or for ourselves if it violates our religious beliefs or our conscience rights. It's in the Massachusetts Constitution. And he says, I don't care. And he said, either you take the jab or I go to DCF. Well, they left, and he goes to DCF. I mean, this guy's a disgrace. Honestly, he's a disgrace. 617-266-6868. John in Andover. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. I got a similar case, but mine wasn't with the shots. But DTF, I called them the boogeyman. Right? I'm convinced that they only do this to keep their jobs, you know. But I was raided. My house was raided. My kids were crying. I was crying. I was Mr. Mom. I was making the kids eggplant. We had a bad divorce with a lying mother. And I'll tell you how I won my kids back. And it was all lies by her. I had to put a restraining order because she was the absentee using drug mom that ended up threatening me. I had to put a restraining order, so she retaliated and made up lies saying I was hitting the kids and raping my wife, and I had large amounts of marijuana in my house. I don't even smoke the stuff, all right? But so they come in, they raided my house, they tore it apart, and next thing I know, DCF is ripping my kids away from me. Here I am, Mr. Mom, working at Raytheon full-time, taking the kids to softball games, malls, and doing all the right things. Now, so after they said, well, you're getting arrested. I said, for what? They said, beating your kids. I said, I never touched my kids. I don't have that in me. So I have to go. They said, well, your house is a mess. I go, that's because I just got raided. They said, we'll clean your house and we'll give your kids back. And I said, I had a cleaning company come in, put the house back together, and I went to the 72-hour hearing. And after 72-hour hearing, they said, I said, Your Honor, the DCF said they would give me my kids back as long as I cleaned my house. I had a cleaning company come in, and they said they stood up and they lied. They said, we never said that. So I was up against a rock and a hard place. So the bottom line, I had to hire a lawyer, and the lawyer said, Steve, you want your job, you want your kids back. Okay? I said, yes. He goes, well, DCF wants you to go to anger management. I go, for what? I never hit my wife, never hit my kids. They said, Steve, you want to get your kids back. I said, okay. You got to go to this anger management. So I'm in with these bunch of losers that hit their kids. Meanwhile, I'm going back, and they're saying, hey, the reports back to my lawyer, I'm failing the class. I said, how am I failing the class? You're not participating. I said, I don't got any of the stories that I hit my wife, never hit my kids. They said, well, you better make up something. You want your kids back. I go, you got to be kidding me. So I go back, and we think about a story, about how to make up a story. So I said, how about if I come back from Raytheon, my dishes weren't washed, and I yelled at my wife because the dishes weren't washed. I was verbal abusive, and all of a sudden I graduated the class. And
they gave you your kids back.
They gave me the kids back, all because I wouldn't sue them, because I had to go admit that I was wrong, so I wouldn't sue DCF.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. They're fascist thugs. I mean, John, what you're describing here, I'm telling you, it's like out of the old Soviet Union or Nazi Germany. You know, like, well, admit you hit your kids, but I don't hit your kids. Well, just admit you hit your kids. Okay, huge. It's both local and national. In fact, it's a huge national story. And hopefully after today's show, it's going to be a massive local story. We shall see. But there's no question about it. This is an absolute watershed case. And it's now mobilized a tremendous backlash against government overreach. and against creeping communism in the United States, not just in Massachusetts, but across the entire country. Izzy Rivera and Ruth Encarnacion, 31 years old, 30 years old, respectively, two parents, loving parents of 5 young children, ages 10, 9, 5, 4, and a 9-month-old baby. Because they refused to vaccinate their 9-month-old baby on religious grounds, citing a religious exemption, which, as I've been saying all show, is their legal constitutional right. DCF has now moved in, taken away all 5 children. They have lost custody of their kids, and they are now each facing 5 counts, each, of familial kidnapping and kidnapping a minor across state lines. They're facing up to 5 years in prison each, and tens of thousands of dollars in fines. And if they're found guilty, they will lose permanent custody of their children. I'm telling you the whole story. There's got to be something more to this, Jeff. There isn't. 2 loving parents who love their children, 5 healthy, well-fed, loved, well-taken care of children who are homeschooled by their parents are now literally going to go to jail and lose their children because they refuse to vaccinate a 9-month-old boy, their 9-month-old baby. You can't make this up. This is communism, and other states are going to follow if we don't nip this in the bud right now. Agree, disagree. Janine in North Carolina. Thanks for holding, Janine, and welcome.
Oh, Jeff, my goodness. I got to tell you, I love you in a non-sexual way.
Oh, thank you, Janine.
I'm not going to compete with Grace because I know she can beat me from pillar to post. I'm not even going to go there. But I just have a few quick things to tell you, comments on this. You stole my thunder when you talked about Justine Pelletier. I always wondered what happened. Is she okay? And how is she doing, health-wise and mental-wise? And then you talked about the familial kidnapping. I don't understand. How can you kidnap your own kids? Both of you have custody of your kids. You're all traveling as one family to another state. So how is that considered kidnapping? And then, to me, we've always known this. The left wants to destroy everything they get their hands on. They want to destroy the family by taking the fathers out of the homes. And by doing that, that leaves the mothers left to raise their kids. See, fathers equate strength. And if you have a strong father in the home, he's a protector of that home. He's basically like a gatekeeper. But they like to play on the mother's emotion, where when you were talking about this gender reassignment, surgeries, and mutilations, they go after the mother to get to the child because they know the mother will be more sympathetic and compassionate. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I think you're dead on. I think you're absolutely right. I think, look, and the left has been open about this for the last 60, 70 years. Get the father out of the home. Why? Because then the mother is a single mom with children, and who becomes essentially the daddy of the home? The government, the state. And then the mother and the children ultimately become dependent upon the government. That's their plan. I'm not saying it happens all the time. There are some single moms who manage to do it, which is, to me, unbelievably heroic and incredible. They manage to hold down a full-time job and raise their children. But it's exhausting. It's very difficult. It's very hard. In most cases, they have no choice. They have to rely on welfare or government assistance. And that's when they become completely dependent upon the government. And that's the goal. That's what liberals want. They want to break the family apart. Look, the communists said this, and the Nazis said this. You destroy the family, you control the family. You control the family, you control society. And that's exactly what they're doing now. And, to what you said even earlier, you're completely right. Absolutely, completely right. Look, I'm not talking about, I get it. You're divorcing, you're separating, and now you're arguing over the custody of the children. And say, whatever, you get them 1 week and the other one gets the other week, or, on weekends, they alternate. And then, well, it's not your weekend or it's not my weekend. And you run off with the child someplace, whatever. You want to go to Florida and your ex didn't approve it. Okay, I get that. Then I can say, well, yeah, that's kidnapping in a way. I get it. Of course. But we're not talking about that. As you put it, we're talking about a mother and a father who love each other. For 15 years, they've been together. They have 5 beautiful children together. The children love them. They love their children. They all live together. They love each other. You don't want to adhere to DCF forcing you to vaccinate your child. They're now saying they're going to take your child and your children away from you. You're like, oh my God. Well, let's go to Texas. So you travel to Texas as a united couple with your 5 kids. How are you kidnapping your own kids? It's seriously, it's sort of like here. Grace, myself, and Ava and Ashton. And we decide to, go to Florida for whatever reason, to travel with our kids. Well, I'm so sorry, but you're kidnapping your own children. How am I kidnapping my own children? They're my children. They belong with mommy and daddy. They're with mommy and daddy. So what they're trying to say, Janine, and this is the point, if they can establish this, what they're saying, this is what they're really saying. Ultimately, you have children because we let you have children. We own your children. Your children belong to us, because the question is, who are you kidnapping them from? And what the government's saying is you're kidnapping them from us. So really, we're the parents of your children, not you, not the mommy and the daddy. That's why I'm telling you, by the way, this is going to get massive attention. Trust me when I tell you this. You're going to see constitutional lawyers lining out the door to fight this in court. Because if they win on this, no parent is safe. Literally, they can get you anytime they want. And let me just say this, Janine. Again, it's good. It's Holy Week. I went to confession yesterday. Let me be again in the confessional, okay, with you and everybody. What I find most disgusting, and this is why you can really tell my blood is boiling over this issue. The left has been trying to get me off the air here ever since I came to Boston many, many years ago. And let me tell you the threat they use against me all the time. Okay? Just so that you know. They always threaten to take my children away from me. But they know that Grace and I are, she's my high school sweetheart. We've been married almost 30 years. My children love me. I love my adopted children. There's nothing I wouldn't do for them. So they can't get me on being a bad parent or an abusive parent, or they can't get me on anything. So all they keep saying is, you better be careful, quote unquote, we'll sick DCF on you. They always threaten me by saying we're going to weaponize the Department of Children and Families, and on some pretense, they're going to come into my home and take my children away from me. Now, I've never succumbed to these threats. I get very angry. I have a bad temper. That's one of my things I always go to confession about. I tend to blow my top, as you can tell. Okay? But I never have succumbed to these threats. But they try to weaponize DCF and try to use my children against me to either have me back off, tone it down, not talk about certain issues, or to force me to leave the state. So I know, I'm telling you, Janine, I know that they use DCF as a weapon, as a political weapon, to go after people, to bludgeon people, to destroy people. And I believe the reason why they went after the Riveras is because they're homeschoolers. If that pediatrician filed a 51A and these were moonbats, with so-called transgender kids, but they leave them alone. No problem. They're one of us. But this family has conservative, MAGA, Trump, I don't know their politics. I'm just telling you, look by their profile. They've got conservative, Trump, MAGA, religious written all over them. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, many of you are texting the Kuhner Man. By the way, you can text me 70470, saying, Jeff, tough topic this morning. My blood pressure is going through the roof. Look, it's upsetting. That's why there's such a backlash, forming all over this very case across the entire country. But really, look, we're going to win. I don't want to seem arrogant or overconfident, but this is Justina Pelletier all over again. And, you know the expression, we can do this the easy way or we can do it the hard way. The easy way is leave these people alone, drop all charges against Izzy Rivera and Ruth Encarnacion, and reunite them with their 5 children, including, the 9-month-old baby. And if they don't want to vaccinate them, that's none of your business. And, everybody they'll have a lawsuit on their hands, but, everybody go their separate ways. We can do it the easy way or we can do it the hard way. But I'm telling you, they're going to be reunited with their children. And I wouldn't be shocked if President Trump got involved in this issue. I wouldn't. I wouldn't be shocked if Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Health and Human Services, Pam Bondi, who, by the way, has literally just announced a massive civil suit against Maine. We'll probably talk about it tomorrow over trans athletes and Title IX. So she's going to sue that. They're going to sue the hell out of the Maine State, Maine's Department of Education. So Pam Bondi's, moving now. She's getting mobilized. She's starting to get energized. So look, I'm going to bring this to Pam Bondi's attention. I'm going to do everything I can to bring it to the Trump team's attention. And as long as we keep talking about it, spreading the word on social media, emails, word of mouth, the more, show up when there's the next case regarding in court on behalf of either Izzy or Ruth. Look, we're going to wear the liberals down. We have the truth. We have justice. We have God on this issue. We have, we're on the side of the angels. We have God on our side. We're not going to lose. This is a 90-10 issue. Most parents, most people listening to this, once they know the facts, are going to say, what? You kidnapped, you seized the children of the 5 children of a couple because they refused to vaccinate their 9-month-old baby boy? Have you all lost your minds? So they can only succeed if they keep operating in the shadows. That's why I always say sunlight is the best disinfectant. As I say, the truth shall set you free. So the more the American people hear about it, the greater the certainty that Izzy and Ruth will be released and they'll be back with their children. So I understand it's a bit of a dark topic, but look, they're doing this all over the country. So, to me, it's always a blessing when you can confront your enemy and you can, and you know where your enemy is so you can defeat your enemy. And we will defeat him. You can take this to the bank. And let me just say one other thing. I know we've got a big rally coming up on May 17th. God is my witness. If I have to hold another rally on this very issue, I will. I will. And if I got to go all the way to Fitchburg to do the rally, I swear to you, I will. So we're going to, I'm telling you right now, DCF is going to rue the day they did this. And Magistrate, Brandon Moran is going to rue the day he approved this. And that loser pediatrician out in Fitchburg, he's going to rue the day he played Mr. Tough Guy and threatened this family and then sick DCF on him. So, no, we're coming for them. We're coming for them, and now they're going to lose because we're going to save our country. 617-266-6868. John in Lowell. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Jeff, I'd say good morning, but not really. Jeff, I was honored with the opportunity to open up the Justine Pelletier rally for you. And with all humility, Jeff, I ask that you consider me again for this one.
Okay, you got it, John. You got it, buddy.
Jeff, anybody that thinks that children that get taken from their home and put into foster homes are in a better situation than they were 9 times, you know what I mean, in cases like this, you're out of your mind, because a lot of those foster parents are there for nothing but the financial help. Those children don't even get the needs met half the time, Jeff. The foster parents take the money and do other things with it. This is a fact. There's sexual abuse that goes on in those homes, Jeff. They're not getting handed over to saints.
Well, John, you're completely right. You're absolutely right. But in this case, so far, of the 5 children, the 4 older ones, 10, 9, 5, and 4, are with the parents of Ruth. The baby, and I don't know why they split the baby from the other 4 siblings. On top of that, that's insult to injury, but let that go. The 9-month-old baby is with the sister of Ruth. So they're not in, I guess technically it's part of the foster care system, but they're with their families. It's the parents and the siblings. So it's not just some stranger, but they are now under the protective custody of DCF. And to me, once DCF gets involved in your home, you're in big trouble. But anyway, so far, the grandparents have 4 of the kids and the aunt has the baby. And we'll see what happens. But John, to me, that's irrelevant. I mean, they want their mother, they want their father. It's a very happy family, a loving family, a caring family. There was no reason to break them up. There was no reason to tear them apart. And I can just imagine the terror and the trauma these children have suffered. And, we heard Tressa from Oregon, who was their advocate. She's the one that helped them get to Texas. Tressa said, they're devastated. Izzy and Ruth are absolutely devastated. And they're wondering now if they'll ever see their children again. I mean, John, this is like a dystopian novel. Really, this is like almost something George Orwell would write about as a warning about totalitarianism in the future. And here it is. John, you're very worldly. You've been around the block multiple times. You've got a really good head on your shoulders. Do you think that the Riveras will prevail? And do you think those 5 children will be back with their parents?
Jeff, they're going to prevail. Do you know why? Because we're all going to get on our knees, Jeff. And we're all going to pray for them. And the power of God is going to take over, Jeff. But you know what's good about this, Jeff? When evil's exposed, he comes in. And he does it every time, Jeff. This is the beauty of what we're going through in this country right now, Jeff. And I'm very upset. I have a lot of thoughts in my head that I can't even get out, Jeff. But he shines the light on it when it exposes itself, Jeff. And in the end, he takes care of it. What I can't stand is they just ruined and possibly made future customers of the system, Jeff. The effect of emotional development on these children, Jeff.
Oh, it's unconscionable.
It's going to take a miracle.
I agree.
A miracle.
I agree.
To go away, Jeff.
I agree. John, I want to wish you a very happy and blessed Easter. And we will definitely team up together again, John. All right? God bless you, my friend. Stay strong, John. 617-266-6868. Ann in Springfield. Thanks for holding, Ann, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you for taking my call. And I just wanted to say that I had an experience in New York City. I was in my mid-20s, and I briefly worked for an advertising company for pharmaceuticals. It was named Interburnwood Healthcare. I didn't know anything about it, and the owner, who's a very nice man, he took me into his office, and he said, okay, this is what we do. You know, there are herbs out there and natural products that have been used for thousands and thousands of years. They've been used for all different types of ailments, but they only sell for maybe 3-5 cents a pill. My clients want to make more than 3 to 5 cents a pill. So what they do is they go out in the rainforest and whatnot, and they find these plants, and they take them back to their lab, and they find the components that do what they want them to do, and then they synthetically reproduce them. After that, they patent them. So now it's theirs, not God's. It's theirs, because you can't patent anything, natural made from God. So now they can charge whatever they want. So that being said, Big Pharma is a business. Okay, Pfizer, Moderna, Merck, they make a lot of money. Now, who owns these stocks? That's the big question, because you always say, follow the money. So with every rule and everything else in our Congress and everything else, a lot of times that has to do with money. Now, does Congress own a lot of these stock? And I actually looked up a couple of years ago, and a lot of them do, actually. So they're making laws that we have to have our children vaccinated, but yet who's making the money? I think there's a big tie into this. And the other thing is the actual vaccines of what these children get, keeping that in mind. A newborn, right as they are born, they get the hepatitis B vaccine within 24 hours of birth. This is the first dose of 3 doses. They also get RSV if there's an outbreak, which I do believe is considered an outbreak right now. At 2 months vaccine, they get Hep B dose 2, rotavirus dose 2. Keep in mind, they're 2 months old. Diphtheria, tetanus, and Ascellula pertussis, dose 1. Haemophilus influenza type B, dose 1. Pneumococcal conjugate, PCV, dose 1. Inactivated polyvirus, PVV, dose 1. Then they go on to 4-month vaccine, rotavirus dose 2, DTaP dose 2, HIB dose 2, PZV dose 2, IPV dose 2, and now just go to 6 months. Hep B dose 3, rotavirus dose 3, only if doing the 3-dose series, DTaP dose 3, HB dose 3, only if doing the 4-dose series, PCV dose 3, IPV dose 3, flu vaccine.
And it's like a dictionary. I mean, really, look, I got Dr. Grace waiting online, so I hate to pressure you like this, but when I was born in 1969, okay, and I was vaccinated, my sister was vaccinated as well. For those of us, let's say 45, 50, 55, 60 years old, we didn't get as many shots as what you're describing now, right?
Especially not the Hep B vaccine. And I know people who got the hepatitis B, and their body fought it off. Only 1% of the people actually carry that to a chronic stage. Most people, their bodies are able to fight this off on their own.
So, and sorry, I didn't hear your initial. You're saying no. We never got as many shots as what they're giving kids today, correct? Okay. Wow. No, it's true. I mean, look, I've been reading about that in the last 10, 15 years. They're just loading more and more and more and more of these shots. And many parents are getting nervous about the long-term health consequences. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has been very powerful, very eloquent on this. This case is tailor-made for him. Oh man, is it tailor-made for him. And thank you very much. Really informative call. Well, there you go. I mean, look at the shots they're pumping into these kids now. Even if you're pro-vaccine, holy shamoly. Look at it. Just because it's like an encyclopedia. Like, really, it's just shot after shot after shot after shot after shot. Okay, joining me now, as she always does at this time, Dr. Grace, putting liberals in their place. Grace, my wonderful wife, my better half. Grace, I've got to ask you, you're a mom. We have 2 beautiful children. We adopted, both you and I, as you know, Ashton and Ava. We love them to death. If we decided not to vaccinate our children, as an example, does the DCF have the right to come in and take custody of both our children and then send us to prison for years because we've been abusing and neglecting them and kidnapping them if we decided to take them elsewhere because we didn't want to obey DCF? In other words, should we lose custody of our children if we decide not to vaccinate Ashton or Ava? Had we made that decision, years ago? What say you?
Yeah, it's an absolutely outrageous story. And one of the reasons that you had the rise of governors like DeSantis and Glenn Youngkin in Virginia, and you had the rise really of even President Trump, is because of this cry across the country, not just in this state, for the reassertion of parental rights over every aspect of our children's lives, whether it's their bodies or their mental health, or their religious formation, their spiritual formation, the values that go into them. All of that belongs squarely with the parents. And this story dovetails with one of the lessons I was recently teaching our children. And I said to the kids, what is the most important and the most beautiful institution that you see on a daily basis? What is it? What is the most beautiful institution? And eventually they got to the right answer. It's the family. The family is the most beautiful institution, and nowadays it is the most difficult to form, and it is the most difficult to preserve. And I think that there are just so many diabolical forces directed right at the family to try to disassemble and weaken the most beautiful, the most precious institution that we have.
Grace, let's say with Ava, okay, we adopted her at birth. You decide as the mom, I know we vaccinated her, but just play along with me. At 9 months, Jeff, a lot of vaccines. I don't like this. It's too many. I'm worried about some of the long-term consequences. We're going to homeschool our kids anyway. We're homeschoolers. The answer is no. We're not going to do it. And the pediatrician says to you, to your face and to my face, well, listen, you better let me put that needle in your baby. Because if you don't, I'm going to file what's called a 51A report, which is going to basically tell DCF to come after you and seize custody of your children. And if you resist DCF, you're going to go to jail and you're going to lose your children. Now, did you ever think, seriously, that this could ever happen in the United States of America, number one? And number two, what kind of a doctor, this pediatrician who ordered this, what kind of a doctor are we dealing with here? What say you?
Well, Jeff, we've seen this before. As you mentioned, when we came to Massachusetts, we were involved in the battle for Justina Pelletier. That was in 2013. By the way, there's a whole documentary that was produced now on that. And you know that her parents, they actually lost their civil suit versus Boston Children's? I mean, eventually, as everybody knows, the parents got custody of her, but they lost their civil suit against them. So we've seen this before, and that's why we have so many people this morning ready to get involved, ready to put pressure on Massachusetts to stop this. And if you think about the incredible difference in how this state behaves, if an illegal immigrant violates a court order, nothing happens. This family, basically, they were pursued because they didn't show up in court, and it was the sister of the family that reported them missing. Well, you got to think about the craziness of all this. Think about it. The family has the right to take their children across state lines. We as parents have the right to take our children wherever we want. If we want to go on vacation, even if we want to leave the country, we have the right to go. And all of a sudden, the state gets involved. They've got to chase this family down, take this family away. Oh my gosh, they're so busy, so effective, so powerful. And when it comes to chasing an illegal immigrant that violates the law and court orders are violated left, right, and center, they're nowhere to be found. They're the most inefficient group of people you'd ever meet. And for pursuing and trying to dismantle a good family, they're the busiest, the most effective that you could possibly imagine.
Grace, you make an excellent point. And let me just ask you this on top of that. What do you say to the argument that these children, by not getting vaccinated, because this is the Boston Globe's argument, that this poses a public health hazard, that you have a measles outbreak down in Texas, which is not really an outbreak, but let that go, that if you don't jab up your kids, you are going to get other people sick eventually. So the needs of society, the needs of others trump that of Ruth, Izzy, and their 5 kids? What say you?
Well, that's really a communist argument. The collective trumps the individual. We don't believe that in the United States. We believe that individual rights are preeminent. So that individual has the right to do whatever they want. The family has the right to do what they want for that child. Now, when it comes to participation in different organizations, that's a whole different ballgame, right? So people do have the right to say, if you're not vaccinated against a specific illness that I'm concerned about and you attend a public school, well, then the community has a right to impose some restrictions. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about a family that is homeschooling. So they're no threat to anybody else, and their individual and familial rights have to be protected. They are paramount. That's their constitutional rights.
Grace, we have about a minute left, and literally it's a minute. Transgenderism. Colorado is now they've just passed a bill in the House, and they're going to pass it in the Senate. The governor will sign it. You misgender your child, you can lose custody over your child. What say you?
Exactly. It's the same phenomenon that we're talking about. There's huge pushback against this right now. It is an attempt to dismantle the family. We're seeing it first and foremost by an assault on our boys. They don't want our boys to be normal. Then they don't want our boys to grow up to be leaders as men, because men are ultimately the leaders of the family. And they are creating a completely disordered environment. That is deliberate. That is on purpose. And this is case in point where the state wants to break apart the...
Oh, you're right. They want to break apart the family, the entire family unit. You know, Larry on Messenger made a really good point about, well, is it a health hazard to others if, you're not vaccinated? And, well, as Larry pointed out, look, let's take the measles. If you're vaccinated, so you're vaccinated. So what's the problem? Isn't the point of a vaccination that you can't contract an illness? So let's say someone has the measles, but you're vaccinated against the measles. So what are you worried about? In other words, either the vaccinations work or they don't work. If they work and you have it, you shouldn't be worried. But if they don't work, then why are you taking it? So again, the whole liberal argument, as far as I'm concerned, completely collapses when it comes to this case and this issue. But that's me. Hello? Did we lose John? John, are you there? Okay. I think he said you mother effer or mother F this. And anyway, so we'll see if we can reconnect with John. Let's go to Catherine in Boston. Thanks for holding, Catherine, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. This is Catherine Vitale.
Hi, Catherine.
So I have a really important message for you and your listeners, if you'll let me get to it. But first, I just want to say that the unfortunate truth of this DCF story is that it's not unique. It happens to millions of families all over the country, and it's been happening for decades. I myself had my children taken away by DCF in 2018, and that's the reason why I got involved in politics. They were taken for 5 months.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Catherine, if you don't mind me asking, what was the pretext for them taking your children?
So I've had 3 different cases. The one where they were taken away was my second case, and they were taken away because my son got a spanking and he had a bruise, and the daycare called.
You're kidding?
No. And
so you spanked your son. You spanked your son and he got a little bruise, and the daycare complained and they called DCF?
Yes.
So they're telling us now how to discipline our own children?
Exactly. And so my kids were in foster care for 5 months, and it tore my family apart. I'm now a single parent on welfare because of DCF. It completely ruined my family. And then when I was protesting in front of Michelle Wu's house in 2022, they gave me another case, and they tried to take my children twice in 2022. But in 2018, when they got my kids the first time, I wasn't aware of my rights.
In 2022, when they tried to come for them 2 more times, I was aware of my rights and I represented myself in court, and they didn't get my kids again. And so my biggest message to you and your listeners, everybody with kids, you have to know your rights. That's the most important thing, because they will come for everybody. They will come for all of us. Every single parent thinks, oh, this will never happen to me. I thought the same thing after I went through my first case. My first case was open and shut. There was no problem. And so I still was naive and thought that DCF was a good thing, that Child Protective Services was a good thing, until they came and ripped my children out of my home a couple years later. And nobody thinks it will happen to them until it happens. And 99.9% of parents are not prepared when it does happen to them. The most important thing that anybody could do as a parent is to learn your rights and do not cooperate with these agencies. There is no law that says you have to cooperate with these agencies. Just don't do it.
Okay, now, Catherine, if you don't mind me, I agree with you completely. Don't get me wrong. But let's take the Riveras. They didn't cooperate with DCF. DCF came to their home, demanded to go in. This was the first time. And Izzy Rivera, the father, said, no, we don't need you. There's nothing wrong with our children. They're fine. They're healthy. They're well taken care of. You have no reason to be here. And we don't need to let you in. We don't need to cooperate. They then put a notice on the door saying that if he doesn't cooperate, they're going to take custody of his children. And they came in with the Fitchburg police. And then they came back again the day later. And they had more police and more DCF workers. And this time they're saying, we're taking your kids. So then they left to go to Texas. But apparently there was a court order saying they had to show up in court. So they said you had no right to cross state lines because you had to show up in court. So, Catherine, my question to you is, you're saying you don't have to cooperate. DCF insisted to the Riveras they had to cooperate at the risk of losing their children. What say you?
So I know Joan Eastman, but I haven't heard all the details of this entire story. I'm sure that at this point, I think the Riveras are doing the right thing. The right thing is to make the story as public as possible. The problem with this, and the reason why we don't hear about these cases, is because there's so much judgment and shame when it comes to having a Child Protective Services case. Nobody wants to put their story out there because you get judged. People.
Oh, Catherine, I'm up against a hard break. Please hang on. Okay, we're going to go right back to Catherine Vitale in Boston. Catherine has had her children, unfortunately, taken away from her. She had to fight to get them back. She says this is not new. DCF and Child Protective Services, as it's called in other states, have been doing this to millions of Americans, essentially kidnapping their children from them. And then it's World War III to try to get them back. And what they like to do is they like to operate in the shadows. People have a sense of shame that this has happened to them. So there's almost a conspiracy of silence. And Catherine is saying that's the worst thing to do. You want to win this, you have to go public. You have to get the media involved. You've got to get people involved, or else they're going to bury you in court. Catherine, can you please pick up where you left off? You were saying you think the Riveras did the right thing by publicizing their case, and you think ultimately they will prevail, correct?
Yes, I do. And actually, back when I had my last case in 2022, 2023, there was another case with a rabbi that we were working on with Joan Eastman, and we did a protest in front of the DCF headquarters in Boston back in 2023 for that rabbi. And my case was going on. I had court the next day, and that protest was brought up in court. And because of that protest, the judge backed off, and that's one of the reasons why I won my case.
Interesting. Catherine, what do you, for Kuhner country, for people listening, a lot of people want to get involved. They want to help the Riveras. And more importantly, they want to stop now this state-sanctioned kidnapping. This notion now that the state owns our children, that our children aren't ours, but they belong to the government. What do you recommend? What should they do if they want to help the Riveras and prevail in this case?
Well, first of all, people need to recognize that the government is not our friend. The government uses these agencies to control and silence people. So before passing judgment on any parent, you should be getting the whole story. And we need to call for the dismantle of child protective services across the country. It does way more harm than good. And back in 2019, the statistics were that 92% of child removals were found unwarranted, meaning that whatever the problem was, it could have been fixed with the child staying intact in the home. It causes unnecessary trauma, and it's all about money. It's a child trafficking industry. They get federal funding every time they adopt a child out.
That's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Catherine, you're a warrior. Catherine, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. Okay, let's go to Joan Quinn Eastman. She is the reporter that initially broke this story in the Boston Broadside, and she's got a follow-up story. You can read it. She's got all the latest details on this case. Go to bostonbroadside.com, bostonbroadside.com. Joan, how are you?
Well, I'm extremely grateful that you reacted to this the same way I did. This story came to me a week ago Friday, and it's been 24/7 ever since, Jeff. And I just have to say I echo everything that Catherine just said, and I've got more. And isn't it interesting? The reason that this story is having such a visceral reaction with the nation is because it has to do with our children. What greater weapon can be used against us than our children, Jeff? It will take the strongest man and put him on his knees. It's the saddest thing. And they are completely and totally exploiting this, which is one of the biggest reasons I'm so outraged about this and so committed to getting this story out and getting it to people who are actually taking action and affecting change. And Catherine mentioned Rabbi Green. I just reposted that story because it's eerily similar. Children's Hospital did not agree with him not vaccinating his children, and the parents wanted to get a second opinion on a procedure. They wanted to put one of their children under the knife, and they stepped back and said no. And then they were pursued by CPS the same way. They ended up moving to Kentucky. But so interesting how this has become full circle, Jeff. Here you are more than 10 years later after Justina Pelletier, for the same reason, striking that chord about a child being used as a weapon. And it's Divine, who is the advocate who helped me with, yes, my own DCF case with a family member 8 years ago, which is why I'm having this conversation with you right now, Jeff. It's incredible. So full circle, here we are. And yes, let's get a rally. Let's do everything we can. I would like to discuss an update about the parents and also give people concrete action items and steps that they can take to help beat back this evil, because make no mistake about it, it is evil. So,
Joan, before I promise I want to get to that, but I just got to ask you this, and I'm asking you now to remove yourself as the reporter. You did an amazing job. I guess I'm urging everybody to read your work. You have laid out the case so well and so powerfully and so effectively and coherently. And I think that's honestly, I'm not saying this to stroke your ego. I'm seeing the broadside in your piece in particular being mentioned in national publications, national media outlets. It's being quoted everywhere because I think you laid it out so well. But I'm not asking now Joan Quinn Eastman, the journalist, the reporter. I'm almost asking now for Joan Quinn Eastman, the commentator, the opinion journalist. Now, your opinion. Why do you think they targeted the Riveras? Is it because they're a homeschooling family? Maybe a conservative family? I don't know their politics. A religious family? Is that why they were singled out? What made DCF go Thunderdome on these two poor people and their 5 children, in your view?
Oh, I know what it is. And Jeff, this is one of the most important things that caused me to call you this morning. If you look at the Channel 5 piece and the Mass Live piece on this father, he stood in court 2 weeks ago and he spoke the truth. He spoke the truth. He knows his rights. And the courts just don't understand it. And now, subsequently, the media is trying to portray him as mentally unstable. They actually said to his mother, you are an accomplice to this crime because they drove in a car that was owned by you. She was out of the country when they left. She had nothing to do with it. And they said, you're at fault because you didn't get your child, your son, your 31-year-old son, mental health help. They are trying to paint him as mentally unstable because, Jeff, he knows his rights. And he was speaking the truth. And the corrupt legal courts do not want people to know the truth. And I want to be sure that Bill, he will take stories and print articles that no one else will touch. You're telling stories that no one else will touch. So, Bill Malugin, here we are. We're on this. We're on this all the way. But that is what's going on here. They want to silence him. They're making an example out of him. I want to give you some insight about the case. Okay, so the mother immediately went with a lawyer. I did interview the lawyer. The lawyer said that he believes this case is going to be dismissed. Now, the father was all ready to represent him, not to represent himself, to stand for himself in this case. But things kind of went haywire while he was waiting to go to court, and he got cold feet, and he cut off communication with all the people who were informing him about his rights. And so I believe what's happened here, after speaking at length with the mother's attorney, is that they are so confident that this is going to be dismissed. He's just going to lean on that, get his case dismissed too, because the two cases are so similar, Jeff, that if the mother's case gets dismissed, his will too. But we, the people, need to rise up and say, we're not even waiting for court. Get this family out, reunite them. And the monstrosities of DCF, as Catherine was touching on, the nerve of these people to incarcerate the parents for a month, and then when mother bails out, the astronomical fee of $7,500, she's relegated to supervised visits with her children. Now, the big thing that needs to be done right now is the father needs to get out of jail so they can get these charges dismissed. And that is going to take the astronomical fee of $25,000, the same bail that they require for murderers, for a man who took his family out of the state, which he has every right to do. I mean, this case is outrageous on so many levels. And so there's a give, send, go. Please go there. Please support this family. I've got people reaching out to me. I've been inundated with thousands of messages. I can't keep up with them. Horror stories like Catherine's, like my own family's. And there's a stigma attached, and like you said, it's like a silent crime, if you will. People they're reluctant to come forward about it. But we have to keep shining the light on all of this. And so go to Give, Send, Go. Look for Izzy and Ruth's Fight for Family and Justice.
All right, so please. Joan, if you can just go a little bit slower on this, because I know people are taking notes. So Give, Send, Go. So you go to Give, Send, Go, and then what do you look for?
Izzy and Ruth, if you put that in, it should come up. It's their fight for family and justice.
All right, and Give, Send, Go, Izzy and Ruth.
Need to get the father out, number one. Number two, we the people need to take action. It is our lawful right and our duty to instruct our public servants. If we don't tell them what to do, they're going to do whatever they want. And whatever they want is tearing families apart like this. Once DCF gets their clutches into you, it is this well-oiled machine. It pays several salaries to have a child in the system. If the child is handicapped, they get 7 times more the funding. They do not want you out of the system. Once they get you, they've got you for a really, really long time. Most cases last 2 years minimum, if you're even lucky to get your child back. I'm speaking from personal experience here, Jeff.
Incredible. We've been talking with Joan. I'm sorry, I'm up against it, but listen, Joan, you have done yeoman work. Okay, look, the text line is literally going to blow. The text line has been burning up all show. My inbox is full. I mean, I don't mean full as in you can't send me an email, but you know what I mean. It's inundated with emails. My messenger is burning up on my cell phone. Many of you are saying, don't talk about it, Kuhner. You got to do it. You got to do it. We need a rally, Jeff. We need a rally. So obviously you want to give me a heart attack. That's what, no, I can see it now. I can see it. It's, you obviously, this audience, you guys want an early grave for the Kuhner man. So it's not enough that we're going to be doing a rally on May 17th to push for the state audit that the voters ratified and voted for in November. Now you want me to do another rally. And it's got to be quick because this family's in trouble and we've got momentum. We've got the whole country behind us. So we're going to have to strike while the iron's hot. So that's okay. No, the only thing I ask is this, okay? That if I do get like a heart attack or a stroke, whatever, I get a massive heart attack and that's it, okay? I die an early death. Could you at least show up to the funeral? That's all. Can you do me that? That's all. If you guys do that for me, I'm a happy man. So, so here's what I'm going to do, all right? Let me talk to Joan when I get off the air. Let's see what we can organize. I'm thinking, obviously, this weekend, no. It's Easter weekend, no. But maybe something next weekend. Maybe. I don't want to say anything. I'm not committing to anything. But it's got to be done in about a week, 10 days maximum. If people are willing to help, and I need help from everybody, and people are willing to show up, it's a question of bodies now. The bigger the turnout, the bigger the pressure, the more likely it is that the Riveras will be released and their children will be reunited with them. But you've got to show up. This anger has to be translated into action and into showing up with signs and bringing family and friends with you. So if Kuhner Country, if you're willing to show up, I'm going to talk to Joan. I need help putting this together. But, we got to get a sound system. We got to get a place to rally, some place that we know is going to be effective. Put together some speakers. But if we can do this quickly, I will do everything in my power, I promise you, to make it happen. And I think we can win not just this case. I think we can win this issue decisively, not just in Massachusetts, but across the entire country. But I need you to ride with me. You ride with me, I will ride with you. 617-266-6868 is the number. John in Medfield. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you loud and clear now. John, were you saying mother effer, or did I mishear that?
No, you misheard it. There was a guy who came up to me to ask me about a chapter in my book. I'm at the gym, and right when you asked it, and I just got confused, but nobody said that. I swear to God.
Oh, okay. No, I thought maybe you're on the road and somebody cut you off, and you're like, you mother effer. And you just came on the air when you said it. Okay, no, go ahead, John. I envy you, man. You're working out and you're calling into the show. That's impressive. All right, John, go, my friend.
Okay. I started 2.5 hours ago. I've been doing a lot, but I really appreciate you putting me on. So regarding DCF, there's a stigma involved with it, and this is why they get away with what they get away with. People are afraid to talk about. If you talk about your stories, you're talking about your kids, and you're putting them in the public eye. You're talking about your ex-wife. People don't want to hear about your ex-wife. So that stigma prevents a magnifying glass being put on DCF. Now, here's what they are. You've already heard people say they get federal funding for taking kids away. That's true. The program that I think it was John in Andover got put in an anger management program.
Yes, program, and then he had to confess, like I thought, like out of the Soviet Union, the crimes he didn't commit, like the things he didn't do.
Like you say, man, follow the money. It's all about the money. There's federal funding going into those programs. There are people in Massachusetts who get paid to put on those programs. If people don't admit what they didn't even do, they don't get the money. But more importantly, you remember when it was called Department of Social Services, DSS? Way back, they had 100 kids die from 2003 to 2013 under their watch. And their solution was to change the name to Department of Children and Families, to remarket and rebrand their organization, and to not track the number of kids who die in their care. So since 2013, we don't know. It's a totally criminal organization, and everything is connected, especially this vaccine stuff. Steve from Gardner asked me to call in for this very reason, because he knows I'm in the crosshairs of both. I've written 2 books. I've got about 150 interviews of me. I've lectured to doctors from around the world, over 1,000 doctors, on the COVID stuff.
Well,
and the COVID
John, buddy, listen, I'm up against it. I got to let you go. If we do pull off this rally, I think I may want you to come and speak, okay? But again, it's up to you. Kuhner Country, I'm willing to do it. I'll go that extra mile. You know I always do. Let me talk to some organizers. Email me, text me, message me. Are you willing to do a rally? Yes, no. I gotta go. Bye-bye.